Good afternoon. My name is Jose Garza, and for the last 10 months, I have been running to be your district attorney. The number one job of the district attorney is to keep our community safe. And earlier this week, our local elected officials issued a shelter-in-place order to address the growing coronavirus pandemic here in Austin and Travis County. It's up to all of us to do our part to stop the spread of this virus. During this challenging time, it's also up to all of us to do our part to care for the most vulnerable. Right now, there are people in our community who don't feel safe at home because of an abusive partner, parent, or other housemate. Today, I am incredibly grateful to be partnering with my good friends, Aaron Martinson, Neva Fernandez, the Survivor Justice Project, and the Austin Justice Coalition. Our hope this afternoon is to raise awareness about the unique dangers sheltering in place may create for victims of family violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and other forms of interpersonal violence, and to offer resources and hope. I'm really grateful to be joined by my dear friend Amanda Lewis from the Survivor Justice Project. Amanda has been an incredible advocate for survivors of sexual assault. And Amanda, I wanted to ask you, why is it important for us to be having this conversation now? These are important conversations all the time. But while people are living in Austin and in Travis County under a shelter-in-place order, why is this conversation uniquely important right now?
Yeah, I think we're all kind of trying to figure out a way forward, whether it's our kind of service providers in the community, folks just doing a new, form of work from home. Also, for folks that are laid off, there's a lot of economic stress that's here right now. And while we're all kind of trying to adjust to this new situation, I think that it's important that parts of domestic violence, family violence, includes a lot of isolation. So we're seeing increased isolation because of coronavirus and shelter-in-place policies. And it's important that, as community members, as folks that are surviving violence, that have experienced violence, that are leaders in our community, that we have the tools to, make sure that, there's other ways we're feeling connected with each other. B, getting really prepared and educated on what to do, what we can do for ourselves, what we can do for folks that are in our communities that we care for, in a way that's in keeping with this shelter in place, so that we can, as they say, kind of reduce the curve, be safe and with our physical health, but also mental health. So, this is a time where we have a conversation that is complex and ever kind of transforming, because we don't know a lot yet. But hopefully with this conversation, we can share what we're hearing now. And as the conversation evolves, we can keep adding to that. But it's just great to be able to connect with folks that we were in community with this topic. So thank you for having me.
Of course. And so this is a time of increasing stress, of potentially increasing isolation for a lot of folks. So an important time to have this conversation. We know that here in Austin, that in Travis County, far too many survivors of sexual assault are women of color. Could you talk to us a little bit about the unique challenges that Black, Brown, and immigrant victims face always, and particularly at this moment?
Absolutely. And I think, of course, all survivors face, depending on their situations, unique challenges. I think for folks of color, immigrant communities, and also like LGBT folks or any other group that's marginalized and isolated in different ways, you're dealing with the systems that we do have in place for addressing violence and creating safety not being as accessible. You're looking at an increased threat of if I get help, can I get deported? Or if I get help, will I be, um, have the criminal justice system harm me in a different way? And so I think for folks of color, women of color, you're dealing with just intersections of issues. So I think in this time, often it's important to understand what the system response looks like, but for these communities, understanding how we can be supporting each other, and how we can stay safe in our homes if we don't have other options. So, the difficulties and challenges are more complex, but this is when we need to be in support of each other and look for resources um, that help us stay connected in a culturally affirming way. So if you're a part of a group or a community that, usually connects, whether it's on religious or spiritual matters, or, you have those cultural communities that, if you're a leader in those communities, that you have some resources, because most likely people are going to go to places and talk to people that they feel they trust and are going to listen and feel heard by them. And so it's so important that we check in with our skills of active listening, non-judgmental, hearing, and what are the other ways and resources that people can get connected with. There's some great mental health support services and other things, and things that Neva and Aaron will also discuss. But for more marginalized communities, we have to do more work to make sure that the ways that people were connecting are still available, but they've moved online. So I definitely encourage people to keep connected in those communities.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for reminding us of the importance of community, even when community feels so hard to come by in this moment. And Amanda, thank you for everything you do always. Really grateful to you. Neva, thank you so much for joining us today. Neva Fernandez is an advocate with Texas Legal Service Center who works on the front lines in our community with people directly impacted by this kind of violence every single day. And we're just incredibly grateful that you've taken some time to be part of this conversation. I know that in that work, you see incredibly difficult situations, but I know that you also see every day an incredible amount of strength and power that survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence have. I wonder if you could talk to us a little bit about that power, about the power that people still have even during this difficult time, and how some of the best ways that they can continue to use that power and agency in this moment.
Sure. First, thank you so much for inviting me to be here and to participate in this. So for those of you who are out there and you're in a situation that feels unsafe to you, maybe it's new, maybe it's something that you've never been in this situation before. Maybe your partner has lost their job or is struggling with being shut in this way that we all are. And so you're beginning to feel like something's not right and maybe it's not safe for you anymore. So for those people, there are options available to you and things that you can think about. And then for folks who are out there and you've been struggling with this for years, there are options for you as well. This is a really hard time to be in one place. It's a hard time for everybody. What you need to remember as you're in that is that you are uniquely suited for this moment. You are absolutely the expert on your own life. So as you are going through this, take a moment to look around, to see the interactions that you're having with your partner, and trust your instincts about those actions. If it feels unsafe to you, and if that person's feeling like they're frightening you, well, then take a minute when you can. Maybe you can't right then, but when you can, take a minute and think about, what does that mean? What do I think could really happen? What are my options? You do have options, and if you trust yourself, you're going to come up with them. You may have family members that you can reach out to just by calling. You may have clergy that you can reach out to. maybe you're going to go shopping and you want to talk to somebody at the grocery store that maybe you need a little help. So you have a variety of options open for you, but the most important thing to remember is that you're not actually stuck in that place. The shelter in place order is it's a medical issue, but there are safety issues that may supersede that. And so even if you're being told that you can't leave for safety reasons, if you need help, you can. And so I would just encourage you, as you're living in this moment, if you're feeling fear in your home, if your home doesn't feel safe to you, trust yourself. It means it probably isn't safe to you. It doesn't mean you need to act in any grand way, but you should take the actions that feel like they're going to increase yours and your children's safety if you have children in the home.
Thank you. That's all really important, and it feels empowering. I also, we know that this is a really scary time for a lot of people for many reasons, but we also know that this isn't going to last forever. We will not be sheltering in place forever. Talk to us a little bit about the fact that this is a temporary situation, and are there other steps that people can take to get through this particular period?
Sure. So as you're experiencing this, it can feel, I mean, I know it feels for all of us as if this is, every day feels like a week or a month or a year. And I think, Jose, you're completely right to keep your eyes focused on the fact that this is a limited amount of time. At some point you will be released from this, and there are resources out there for you. You can reach out to SAFE, the SAFE Alliance here in Austin, Hope Alliance as well. You can reach out to Legal Aid, Texas Legal Services Center, Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. You can do those things right now, but if you're not ready for that right now, you can do it when you leave. I would also say that as you're going through this and as you're experiencing it, doing things to keep yourself and your partner sort of mentally calmed is helpful. Sitting in a room by yourself or sitting in a room with one other person can make anybody crazy. So to the extent that you can get out and walk around, to the extent that you can do exercise, listen to music, dance, if you can do those things, it releases steam for you and your partner. None of that is a fix-all. For some of you, that's not going to be what you need. Know this will be lifted. You will be able to leave your home. There is hope, and there's help out there. It will come to you. It is just a matter of time. Also, you can reach out today in this moment if you need help.
Ava, thank you so much. I'm really grateful that you have lent your expertise to this discussion. It means a lot to me.
Sure.
And I'm incredibly grateful for every opportunity I get to partner with Erin Martinson, and really glad that you're joining us this afternoon. You have spent your entire career fighting for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence in every aspect, at every level of our county's legal system. Could you talk to us about the legal resources that are available even during this really difficult shelter in place? And you have to unmute. Oh, the wonders of technology.
Thank you, Jose. Sure. So even while we are in this, as we've said, unique and possibly dangerous situation, legal remedies are still available, although they might be more difficult to access when you are stuck at home with your partner. But I wanted to give everybody a rundown of what the legal services and remedies are in our community, so that if you have a moment or a way to reach out, these are available for you. So in Travis County, the majority of protective orders are filed by, well, let me just back up in case folks don't know what a protective order is. Victims of family violence, of sexual assault, child abuse, and or stalking qualify under Texas law for a protective order. And protective order is a legal order, a court order that will keep your abuser away from you, also keep your abuser from harming you and or your children. And these orders, you can also request the court to remove your abuser from the residence if that's necessary, if there's been violence in the past 30 days, or if you've, and if you've lived with your partner in the past 30 days, you can avail yourself of this remedy that we call a kick out. Basically, it's part of the order that will remove your abuser from the home. So that is an option. It's really important as we're thinking about safety planning and ways that you can keep yourself safe during this time. If you choose to file for a protective order, or even just explore whether that's right for you, you need to know that part of the process involves writing a statement detailing all of the incidents of violence, threats of violence that have occurred in your relationship. And that statement, that very detailed statement, will be served on your abuser, your partner. And so as you're thinking about what the best option for you, it's really important to know. Some folks feel like just that small part of filing for a protective order would increase danger for them in that relationship. And so maybe it's not the right resource for you. Other folks really benefit from protective orders. They're criminally enforceable. And so there is a piece of accountability built in if there are violations of that order. And there's research that suggests that protective orders, while they're just a piece of paper, they're actually very effective at reducing violence in the time after someone gets a protective order. So they really can be very effective if that's the right decision for you. But again, as Neva said, I think it's really important that you take stock, and we'll give you some more resources where you can even just call and talk to somebody about these options, explore what is best for you and your family. And if this is what you decide to do, here are the resources for you. In Travis County, as I said, the Travis County Attorney's Office files the majority of the protective orders. They have changed their process a little bit to make it easier for folks to access their services while we're under the shelter in place order. Basically, they used to require that people walk into the office. They would screen people on a first come, first served basis, but they've altered that so that you can call, and the number is on the screen. It's 512-854-4163. You can call and speak with a counselor who will screen you and prepare you for a protective order. If your case is accepted, then the attorneys are able to still go to court to get you a temporary protective order very quickly so that you're safe in between the time that it takes to file the order and when you go to court. You likely won't have to appear in court until the final court date, which in a normal time is within a couple of weeks. That may be extended a little bit during this time, but you should have that temporary protective order keeping you safe until that final court date. And if the court date is reset, the court will extend that order. So you be sure and rest assured that there will be no lapse in protection as we wait for our courts to deal with all of the issues surrounding social distancing in the courtroom. If you do not have access to a phone or safe access to a phone, the county attorney's office has a space designated for folks who need to come into the office. Their office is located at 314 West 11th Street on the 3rd floor. They will give you a space private to call a victim counselor from their office. So if you don't have access to a phone, or it's not safe to make a phone call in your house, this is an option, although they're encouraging if you do have access to a phone that you call in rather than go to their office. Some other resources that Neva briefly mentioned: Texas Legal Services Center, their phone number is 844-303-7233. They provide free legal assistance for victims of violent crime. You can call them if you need help with a protective order, or even if you just need a little bit more in-depth discussion about your legal rights and remedies. You will be screened over the phone. You will be speaking with a counselor to do a really thorough analysis of your next steps. And so you can call them during business hours. They're not open after business hours. Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid. And one more thing about Texas Legal Services Center, they also provide help navigating the criminal justice system. If you and your abuser are already involved in the criminal justice system, if your abuser has been arrested, there's a criminal case, and you want to have more input into that prosecution, Texas Legal Services Center has attorneys willing to help with that process and experienced in helping with that process. So Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid, their phone number is 888-988-9996. It's also a free legal resource for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, stalking. You will also be screened over the telephone for their services, and they can screen you for protective orders and other family law matters such as a divorce or a custody suit. If you're not sure if you're ready for a protective order or to take legal action, there are many resources to just call and talk to somebody that are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We've included those numbers here. The SAFE Alliance is our local domestic violence and sexual assault resource center. You can talk to somebody any time of the day or night. Their number is 512-267-7233, and they're available to help you do sort of the preliminary advice about what your next steps will be, cautioning you about things that could happen as a result of whichever option you choose, and helping you safety plan through that. I cannot emphasize enough how important a safety plan is for you, and if you have children, just working with somebody to develop something that applies uniquely to your family to keep you safe during this time, especially if you decide that you're going to stay in that relationship. They can help you with ideas to keep you safe while you're in the home with your abuser. There's also the National Domestic Violence Hotline. Their number is 800-799-7233. Also a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline that can do really a lot of the same things as SAFE Alliance, help you sort of evaluate what your options are and make a decision about what comes next for you. And then finally, loveisrespect.org. They have a function on their website where you can create an individualized safety plan for you and or your children on their website. So this is a really great tool. It's called an interactive safety plan, and it will ask you a series of questions and help you to help you create a plan uniquely tailored to your family and your situation. And again, I can't say too many times how important it is to have a safety plan in place, especially during this time when you're probably in the home with your abuser.
Thank you so much, Erin. And we should also take this opportunity to remind folks that if they've taken all these steps and still they feel like they're in danger, or if they feel like that danger is imminent, there are other criminal legal steps people should take. Tell us just a little bit briefly about, remind people, anyone who is watching who may be in that circumstance, maybe right now, what some other options are.
Sure. I mean, no matter what the state of our community is, the state of our healthcare system, what's going on right now, the pandemic, you always have the right to call 911 and to ask for help from the police. For many victims, this isn't the choice that they take. It's complicated. It can result in a more dangerous situation. And especially in communities of color, there are trust issues with law enforcement and with the police. And so calling the police is not a good option for your family. But for those of you who feel that your life is in danger and you need intervention right at that moment, calling 911, and part of that safety plan would be making a plan for your children, including a code word, so that they can call 911 if the situation becomes potentially lethal, or to a point where you need somebody to come in and intervene right away.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin. You know, over the last couple of hours, we have also been really grateful to receive some good questions from folks out in the community. And I'm really grateful that we are also joined by Suki McMahon from the Austin Justice Coalition, who's going to help us, you know, navigate through those questions with our fantastic panel of experts. So Suki, what are people asking about? What do people want to know?
Yeah, so here's a really great question. What support is there for abusive partners to help them identify that they're causing harm and to get help? I think that the other side of this equation is the partners who are involved. So would love to hear from the experts about what you might advise for abusive partners.
So
Go ahead.
I would say this. I think that if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're behaving in ways that you afterwards feel that you need to apologize, they make you feel bad, you've hurt somebody that you care about, at that point, it's important to think about what were the things that got you to that point, right? What was the lead up? And maybe not think about it in terms of the other person, because you can't control their behavior, right? We all live with people and they are all different kinds, and you can't control what that other person does. But maybe think about, what was I doing just before? Was I super anxious about my job? Was I super anxious about the fact that I can't reach my mom who's in a nursing home? Was I drinking too much? Was I using drugs? Is this a drug that when I use it, it makes me angry? If your choice is to not harm somebody that you care about, the first step in addressing that is thinking about, what was I doing as I found myself in that situation? And that really has to be a thought about yourself, because each of us can only control our own behavior.
And I would just add that there are resources in Travis County also for men or women who use violence in their intimate relationships. Resolution Counseling, which is part of LifeWorks, has counseling for people who use violence against their partners. It's called a Batterers Intervention Program. And they have a varying level of classes, from sort of mild, somebody, you know, where they're just starting to think about this and maybe it's a new behavior. They have a lower level class, all the way up to a more intensive class for someone who's been exhibiting this behavior for a lifetime. There's also the Center for Cognitive Education that offers a very similar program for people who use violence against their intimate partners. Other people, without speaking to the effectiveness of this approach, I know many other people seek counsel of clergy members or leaders in their community. And so that may be an option for an individual family. I will say that in the movement, what we've seen tends to work best is, rather than a partnership entering into couples counseling right away, that the person using the violence first looks at their own behavior, works on that in a therapeutic setting or in a group setting, and then if the partnership intends to continue on, if they're going to reconcile, then once that work is done, then couples counseling is an option as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was, I mean, from Neva and Erin, that was really, really great. And the only thing that I would add, because I mean, this is such a good question, Suki. I think a lot of folks are worried about, there a lot of reasons why people don't reach out for support, especially in the Black and Brown community, is they're worried about what's going to happen to their partner. And I think that's a real concern. I would just add that in times of compounded stress, all of us are capable of being, difficult to be around, right? So this is a time where we all benefit from doing things that really reduce our stress and anxiety. And Neva kind of mentioned that earlier on. Those same things can be really helpful for people that see themselves doing things that they are afraid of and worried about harming other people. So, whether that's getting out and completing the stress cycle by exercising, checking in with their family, checking in with their community, and really looking at finding activities that kind of calm us down. That's really going to be important as we all kind of deal with this new stress of the stay-at-home order.
I would also add that I've had clients that their partner has a parent who has perhaps an awareness of this as a challenge for this person, and he would call his mom and get his mom engaged, because it didn't always work, but it is an option. If there's somebody that you trust, if you feel that your rage is taking you to a place where you're going to harm somebody that you care about, reach out to somebody that you trust and say that. And hopefully that human connection will help to redirect some of that anger.
Just one more thing, because I just looked, and the National Domestic Violence Hotline, a number that we provided earlier, but I'll repeat again, 800-799-7233. They also provide counsel to partners who use violence in their relationships and help them think through strategies for change, and have resources as well that they can offer in the community for folks that want more help than that. And it's confidential and anonymous as well.
Wow, thanks y'all. That's really fantastic. Thank you for your responses. The final question that we have, someone provided a comment and it segues into a question. They say, something I'm very aware of right now is to encourage folks to have a code system that can be used in normal context when checking in with friends who we think are in an abusive relationship, especially considering phone monitoring will be increased. This sounds like great advice. What are your comments on this, and what other advice do you have for friends and family who are proximate to this?
So I'll take this one. I feel like the advice I would give is for friends and family. Rather than giving specific advice to somebody as to how techniques they might use to keep themselves safe, I think the better advice in this context and in this setting is to say that if you have a family member or friend that you've sometimes just thought, that's odd, right? Check in with them. Be attuned to the sound of their voice and check in. So it's sort of more like as a community, let's all step in and pay attention to each other. So that we're keeping ourselves all safe and well. And I think if people are checking in, with others that they feel might be at risk, they're going to hear what they'll hear something. And I think that's better than getting into specifics. That's probably the advice I would offer.
And I would just add to that I think as family members, sometimes we can be really frustrated when someone we love is in a situation that we feel might be dangerous or not good or healthy for them. We tend to come to that relationship with judgment. And the more that you can approach your loved one judgment-free and offering support when that person is ready, the more likely they're going to come to you when they really need you. What we've learned doing this work is that understandably, family members will cut off other family members or friends if they feel like that person's in a dangerous situation and won't leave. And that really places that person who's in the dangerous situation in more isolation, and creates a situation where they're less likely to reach out to family and friends when they're ready for help. We can't force people to leave when we want them to. We have to trust that they know the safest time to leave. And on average, it takes a victim of domestic violence 7 attempts at leaving before she's successful. And family and friends, the more that we can do to take victims, meet them where they are, and to provide a supportive and listening ear, the more likely it is that they're going to come to us when they need us and when they're ready.
Yeah, I wanted to add, just thinking about culturally specific services, Asian Family Support Services of Austin is also a great resource. Their number is 512-651-3999. 3743. I know for folks that are maybe and stay at home away from their families, if you are looking for the local crisis centers in different areas of Texas, you can find them on the Texas Council for Family Violence website, tcfv.org, and also Texas Association Against Sexual Assault website, that's taasa.org. And I think one thing that's great to know about these types of resources and these hotlines is you can, as someone that's concerned or someone that just wants to learn a little bit more, you can also use those hotlines to inform yourself on how you can support someone that maybe isn't ready to reach out and seek outside support. So
I would like to add also that all of the services that we've mentioned do not ask anybody about their status here in the United States. So, and at least our organization, I know Trala, most of these organizations, all of these organizations have folks who speak Spanish. And they are not, anyone can avail themselves of these services.
And for Asian Family Support Services, thank you, Amanda, for reminding me that I had that information as well. But I've spoken with them. They're continuing to operate. They're an advocacy organization that helps individuals in Asian communities access social services. They are actively working with many clients who are already in crisis and facing additional challenges like loss of income, lack of basic needs like food and diapers, and inability to physically leave their abusers. While their office is closed, they're still operating their 24-hour hotline, and they have advocates who speak an array of languages and can be really helpful for the Asian community especially when you're looking for sort of harder to find language interpreters. They're really great resource for that, and they do amazing work with victims of domestic violence and sexual assault.
Thanks, y'all. Y'all are doing amazing work, and this was so extremely helpful. Thank you for answering those questions.
Thank you, Suki, and thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Neva. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you to the Austin Justice Coalition and to the Survivor Justice Project. There is no doubt in my mind that our community, that Travis County, is a safer place because of all of the work that you do, and I'm just incredibly grateful to you. You know, this is a really difficult time. Stopping this pandemic is a social justice issue, and it's up to all of us to do our part to protect the most vulnerable, especially now. That means sheltering in place until the order is lifted, and proactively supporting our neighbors who need assistance with rent, food, or other essentials while they may be unable to work. But it also means doing our part to protect those among us who far too often suffer in silence. And so if you or someone you know is worried about being safe at home, remember that you're not alone. Remember that there are resources and people who want to help. We're gonna leave this screen on for a little bit longer to make sure that you get all of this information. And we're really grateful that you have tuned in to join us today. My name is Jose Garza, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.